I'm here with my friend Alicia Lozano, and we're going to talk about something that is so important. It's one of my favorite subjects since I have been an operator most of my career. It's important for all of us to get our ops in check, because if we don't, we are going to keep spinning our wheels and we're going to feel like we don't have any time, and it's just a mess. So I'm so excited to talk with Alicia about this today. I have to tell you guys before we get started, I got this new ball for my office. You see it, you can see it in my camera right here. I got this new ball because I want to like move around more throughout the day. So I got one of these balls, of course, on Amazon. And I was just sitting on it when Alicia joined the live stream software. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't sit on this thing, because if I was sitting on this ball, you guys would just see me.
And I asked her to do it. So let's take a vote, right?
No. That would be so embarrassing, right? I would probably fall off the ball in the middle of the live stream, which would give you guys a good laugh. But yeah. Anyways, so all right, I see you guys are out there in Facebook and YouTube land. Please say something in the chat. Say hello to us. We would like to hear from you. Tell us how you've already mastered your ops. But Alicia, will you tell everybody a little bit about you?
Yeah, thank you so much. So hi, everyone, and thank you so much for bringing me on. And I love talking about operations, and primarily because this is actually the last fundamental, I believe, with business that I got a grasp on. And I kind of feel it's a little bit because operations is the stepchild of we're not as fun as marketing, right? And sales, we're not directly tied to sales, right? I mean, we are, but we don't sound cool. So I'm so excited to talk about operations and why it's so important. But again, my name is Alicia Lozano, and I'm an operations consultant and a systems strategist. And basically, in a nutshell, what that means is I organize businesses for a living. And just a little background. So I'm a corporate dropout. So I have an HR background and I have an OD degree. And so when I took a look back at my life and how I even became an operations consultant and an entrepreneur overall, everything led to organizing, something. I used to own a business for organizing homes. So I truly feel connected to doing operations of a business, and yeah, excited to be here. Born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, live in the same Goes First Go with Amy. And yeah, I'm super pumped to be here and talk about this.
Awesome. Yeah, you mentioned that you like to organize things and you also like to organize your home. So you guys, Alicia is actually working with us at Amazing at Home to master some of our processes. She's working with our ops manager and our team, and she's just getting it done. But since she mentioned that she likes to organize house stuff too, I just wrote that down.
You're like, well, I'm retired. But no,
when you're done, can you do the pantry?
Yeah. No, I definitely have some processes for your pantry, but my first business coach was specialized in organizing homes, and that's how she set us up. And we are still connected today, and she's freaking killing it. And you hear about Marie Kondo, but yeah, we need to hear about her. Melissa Morale, by the way.
Well, I agree. It's so important. And that's the one thing that I actually attribute to my success in business and being able to run all of the businesses that I do run, and the house and all the things, is being operationally organized and operationally minded. So you have something you're going to talk to us about today, which is your process for people to get organized. So we need our folks to get so excited about hearing what you have to say today, because this is going to help them in their businesses. So are we ready to go? Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm showing the presentation, and whenever you are ready, we're ready for you.
Awesome. So I wanted to start just at the fundamentals because I do feel like when I hear terms like systems and processes and procedures kind of thrown around, like everyone has a different like idea of what that actually is. And so I wanted to just set the foundation and set some parameters. So as I'm walking through this presentation, you kind of understand like what I'm referring back to. And so, for example, like business systems, like you can think of like, oh, I have a system, I have a project management system, I have this kind of stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So a business system is actually a set of policies and processes and procedures that get you from point A to point B. So I like to explain this in terms of an umbrella. So a business system kind of follows like the core functions of the business. So you can have like marketing business systems. You can have like sales business systems, those types of things. And I'm going to dive into that for you guys as well. But so that's business systems. Processes is actually the activities. So this includes like the policies and procedures and assets as well that help accomplish a particular task and help you get to that output. And then a policy, so real quick, so process would kind of fall underneath the business system. So you have marketing business systems, but you can have multiple processes underneath that particular business system. And then a policy is, strictly what it sounds like. It's a guideline and set some parameters, and it could be used to accompany a particular process. One of the examples I like to use is like a social media marketing policy. So something where like a posting policy you can put in place, like, I think about like maybe it's a Christian organization and they don't use cuss words or something in their social media. Like that could be a policy and some guidelines that you have, and how you can use a policy within a process. And then the procedures are, we often refer to this as like an SOP, but a procedure is really the step-by-step actions that you actually take. So it's like, what do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to just take a moment to explain that.
So we can think of all of these as kind of a tiered system where we have our business systems that go underneath our top of our business, which are made up of processes. And we have general policies that could apply to certain systems or processes, right?
Mhm.
And then we've got our SOPs, which is the guidance that we follow, or the procedure, which is the guidance that we follow in order to implement all of our business systems and processes and policies.
Absolutely. Exactly.
I love it. I'm following. All right.
Awesome. Okay. And so I wanted to give an example of how this all may look on paper when you're developing a standard operating procedure, and also known as an SOP. So people might do it different, but typically they all look very similar. So this is an SOP that I use within my own business. And so I have your date last updated, a status that it's in, like if it's a draft, if it's live, if it's in review, those types of things, who it was created by, and the department that this is particularly tied to. Then you have your title at the top, and then you go into your purpose. So when you're developing an SOP, the purpose that you write is really the purpose of this particular SOP. Like what is the purpose it's going to serve? For example, in this here, scheduling Facebook and Instagram posts through Facebook Business Suite. That's my process. The purpose of developing this SOP is that you need to be able to schedule and cross post videos, static posts, and carousels to Instagram and Facebook. So that's just an example of what the purpose would be. And then I also add in prerequisites and tools. And this will make a little bit more sense as we go through the presentation, but there may be particular assets or particular tools that somebody may need access to. And there also may be a separate SOP that someone needs to reference when following this particular SOP. So for example, in this here, they need access to Google Drive. They also need access to Facebook Business Suite. And things like that before they even get started on this operating procedure. And where this prerequisites and tools is also helpful is if you're handing this over to maybe a new hire, and let's say through their onboarding process, you may have not gave them access to a particular tool, right? And then you're telling them, hey, perform this job, and here's the SOP to follow. this is a good indicator of like, oh, I can't complete this SOP unless I have access to the Google Drive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next point is the training videos. Most SOPs could have a training video attached. Not all of them need training videos, but in the event that it does, you can create a training video and put that there. And then this is where you get into the procedures. So the procedures are the actual step-by-steps. What are you going to do first? What are you going to do second, et cetera, et cetera. So I just gave a quick snapshot here that, procedure 1 is you sign into Facebook Business Suite. And then there's some examples of what that looks like and what I need them to click on here. And then number 2 is start a post. And then I'm outlining exactly, okay, what do I mean by start a post? You navigate here, you click here, you go here, etc., like that. So I just wanted to give just a quick snapshot of what a standard operating procedure looks like.
What I like that you did here is that you give the titles so that we know when it was updated. This is something that I don't do. And like in the very beginning where you said date last updated, because I encourage my folks to update SOPs as they go, but it would be really great to have that last updated date. And I like that you have outlined it this way with the prerequisite and the tools, because a lot of our entrepreneurs, when they're hiring their first hire, or their second hire, they get so nervous because it's like, okay, this is all my stuff right now. How am I supposed to share my stuff? But if we're just outlining this from the beginning, then, we know, okay, in order for someone to do this, I need to give them access to this and this. And it just kind of forces you to think through those things kind of in order in the way that you need to use them. So love it. I love this format.
Awesome. And then, yeah, to your point too, with the new hire, like you said, what they need access to and where, and this also like will force you to put things in a particular, or like maybe in one folder, or I use like Google Drive or Google Workspace and create a separate team drive of things that my team will need access to, versus I also have like a CFO folder where I have like my financial operations. So to your point of thinking through that, you will think through, okay, this particular folder, my social media folder needs to be in the team hub, right? This needs to be in the team hub, and my financials do not, depending on the level
exactly,
of access.
So that you're not giving the wrong access to the wrong people to different things.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. And I usually look at systems in 8 core business systems. And like I mentioned before, it is like a tiered system. It's the umbrella. I'd like to think of it as like the umbrella, right? So you have your marketing and visibility. And these are just some examples of the processes that could be attached to the marketing and visibility systems. And so the processes that you could develop underneath marketing and visibility are your social media marketing process, or maybe your email marketing process. And then for sales, some processes that could be developed are your lead generation, or even like lead tracking process, or your sales tracking process. And then, of course, client experience is all about how you're welcoming new clients, or how you're onboarding them, how you're growing them, and how you're offboarding them. And all of those can be separate processes. And this is it's not a list of all the processes. You can definitely develop like hundreds of processes and sub processes that go along with these, but these are just some examples.
Yeah, and even for our product selling business owners, customer experience is so important, right? So they can, in terms of when you're onboarding a new customer, when someone buys your product, what are you doing? Are you following up with them? Are you tracking where they're from, what they're doing, right? So even this works for service-based businesses as well as product-based businesses, because you do want to focus on, okay, how am I retargeting those customers? How am I following up? Do I have an insert in my product? And now what am I doing to check? Are people actually going to that email or scanning that QR code? Am I tracking those emails that I'm getting in from those customers? Am I following up with them? So when you guys see that client experience, it does apply to you too. And it can make a difference in your business to follow up with customer experience.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because it does matter. Whenever, let's say you're buying a planner, right? What is the very next thing that happens? That's all the client experience. Is it the next email? Is it, something that they get before the planner in the mail? Or I always think about this too if somebody's throwing, a like a training or something like that. Are they getting some type of experience box or something like that? So yeah, so it's so important for product and service based businesses as well. And then you have your HR and team. And those processes could be, how are you onboarding your actual team? What are the steps you're going through? And this is also important to talk about, like the experience too that your team is having. So one of the things I know that I worked on a client with when I was developing an onboarding system is, in that onboarding system, we had like checkpoints for them to give us feedback on how they're feeling with the onboarding. And so, that was just, something that we decided that, she wanted to keep track of. And so we threw that in the onboarding experience. So it's more than, okay, get access to this. And, then this is where you're going to work out of, and here's our project management system, and et cetera, et cetera. It is about how you're welcoming the team. Are they getting a team meeting? And all of those things could be easily forgotten, especially if the team member is being onboarded during a busy season, right? And when you're scaling super fast and you're, onboarding someone, you might not think about that experience. So it's important to kind of have that built in already. So it's just, you don't have to think about it or work backwards. And also this applies to how you're exiting your team members as well. And then we have fulfillment. So this is all your follow up, your check in, how you're delivering the actual client work or the product that you offer. And there can be processes around that. And then we also have your financial, which is, are you doing, monthly budgeting? Are you meeting with your bookkeeper? Those types of things can all be turned into processes and some automation to go along with that as well. Are you auditing? Those types of things. And then under the operations bucket, I like to look at the tools. And this is where we were talking about like folder organization. Is there a naming convention that you have that's pretty easily understandable from your team? Is there a business hub, like somewhere where like it's a team folder or something that your team knows that no matter what, like the SOPs are going to be here. Quick links, I love having a board with like quick links of like your media kit or things like that that could go into calendar links that could be quickly put into one hub. And then your management systems, the processes kind of underneath that could be any type of business planning. Do you have, that set up for the year with your team? Or is your management, do they have like team performance reviews on, every quarter or things like that could all be set up as a process and or automated as well. So those are the 8 core business systems. I want to take a breath because I feel like it's a lot. And so anyone, out there right now that's live that has any particular questions, let's see.
Well, let's put it out there to them. I asked the question, do any of you use any of these core business systems? But for sure, you guys, as you're watching, I see some folks watching right now. As you're watching, feel free to throw your questions in the chat for Alicia. She's ready for them. What is it that you struggle with most in SOPs, in your operations? Is it just staying organized? Do you have business systems right now? Do you know what, even if you're in business by yourself or you have 1 or 2 or 3 VAs or, these systems are really important. So let us know where you're at and what you're working on, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And then this slide too, it's if you're overwhelmed, and most business owners are visionary, right? You're the big thinkers, you're the world changers, and you don't really want to get tangled up with the details. You don't want to think about it. And so don't do it alone. You don't have to. There's specialists out there, there's experts out there for everything. Even if you're thinking about using a particular tool and you're like, look, like, I don't want to set up this tool. There's an expert out there for that. If you're looking for some strategy, that's the expertise that I can provide. So you don't have to do it alone. If operations is not your thing and you don't like to think through the one, two, threes, or even when you try to think through the one, two, threes, maybe it's just, it doesn't come out as good, or it's not as, you can't explain it. That's okay. There are people out there to help you too. So if you are scrappy, you have some grit, and you do want to do it alone. So I always, and this is kind of where I started, start small. So we talked through the core business systems, and there's a lot to choose from in terms of when you're looking at your business from a holistic view and trying to understand, like, okay, cool. Like, right now I'm just putting out all the fires. I'm running from back and forth. Like, where do I even start? So I have like 2 entry points for you. The first is, what is costing you the most time? So looking at your day-to-day, looking at your schedule and the tasks that are on your plate, what is costing you, or I'd even go as far to say, what is costing your team the most time? Is your team getting burned out over repeatable tasks or doing the same thing? Or maybe there's tech issues that are falling through, something like that. What is costing you the most time in your business? And I would start there. Now, if your answer to that question is everything is costing me the most time, I'm in my business like pretty equal across the board. I'm running from dealing with marketing stuff to organizing this and that. So that's okay. So decide what one process will accelerate your business growth and help you reach your strategic goals right now.
Christina says, no, I'm a hot mess. What does a beginner do?
Yes, perfect. Go to question 2. So go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. She said, yeah, I'm a visionary, right? So she's got the big ideas and she doesn't know where to start. For me, what I did was a time analysis. And I know this is so hard. Like, people don't like taking the time to do a time analysis, but I just sat down and I was like, I don't even know, because I was everywhere, right? I was like, I'm doing all the things. I don't know what I need to hire first, or what I need to write a process for first, or what I need to get off my plate first. So I just created a spreadsheet on Google Sheets, and I just put the date, the day, and then the task and the description of the task. And I put the average time that it takes me. And then I put in there, who is supposed to be doing this? So was I doing someone else's work, right? Or was I doing my own? And then the next thing that I wrote is, how often do I do this? Is this a one-time thing? So am I spending time doing things that I only do once? Is this a daily thing? Okay, I do this every day. Or is it once a week, once a month, right? And then I asked one key question. The last part of the column was, is this outsourceable? Could I pass it off to someone else? And then if the answer was yes, my next thing was, to who? So then in that column, I wrote a copywriter, an administrative assistant, a social media manager. And then at the end of I just did that for a week. I just tracked my time for a week. And at the end of that week, I sorted that column of, is it outsourceable and to who? And whoa, I discovered I needed a copywriter and a social media manager ASAP. And I also, hey, newsflash, you just created a job description, because you just wrote down what tasks you do for that person that you need to pass off. So now, not only did I have details that, yes, I need to outsource to a copywriter and a social media manager. And oh, by the way, here's their list of tasks, right? So that's how I personally did that. But I love how you were saying to just start with one thing, right? Like, the one thing you can get off your plate is really, really good.
And that's awesome, Amy. Like, to even get to that level of detail. And yeah, it takes some time, but it's so worth it. And to your point, it had multiple benefits to it. It wasn't just analyzing your time. Now you had a job description. Now you had some focus about who you need to hire next. Like, so many things were captured in you doing that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and who says Loom videos combined with our written SOPs was a game changer. And also says, thanks for sharing your insight today. And
Awesome.
yeah, so Christine is just taking notes from everything in the chat for
Awesome.
everybody.
Yes,
I
yes.
love
Keep
it.
it up. Keep it up. Yeah, I love it. So the second question is, what is the one process that will accelerate your business growth? If you are looking across the time, and you're like, my time is split like pretty much between multiple things that I'm doing in the business, then just focus on what is your strategic goals for that quarter. When you're looking at the 3-month projection, what are you working on right now, and what are the processes that you need to support you to get there faster? And so that's where you would start as well. If you feel like you're not, your hair's on fire and you're running all over the place, and you can't pick just one, that's where I would start. And a good example of this is, I was hired to do a CRM setup, and this client also needed a project management setup. And the project management setup, basically, she was said, bring everything from my Airtable to this project management system. Okay, great. But that's a big project, right? It had like multiple different, fields, multiple projects that I needed to move over and that kind of stuff. And so we started with this. What is the one thing that you need to support your business process right now? Where do we start? And so that helps you prioritize what you need to get done first. And it also doesn't make it so overwhelming if you are tackling operations by yourself. So awesome. Oh, wait. Okay, back here. Okay. And then let's say that you made your decision. This is the evolution of a process. The very first thing you do is just write it out. And I love using sticky notes because you can like move things around. So write out what happens. And a perfect example of this could be, onboarding your clients, right? Writing out, how are they coming in? Are they coming in through your website? Are they coming in through different ways? That's step one. How are they coming in? What happens next? And then what happens next? And then what happens next? All the way until you're doing that fulfillment piece, until you're actually delivering the product or the service. Step two, this could be helpful. You can get some mind mapping or doing some process mapping. Mind mapping is really helpful. When I use mind mapping a lot when I do the like social media content repurposing. So starting with one idea, like, are you writing a blog, or are you voicing over content, or what are you doing in the center, and what is that going to turn into? So is it going to turn into, 3 long form posts, and then out of those 3 long form posts, one of them is going to be an email, one of them is going to be a blog. From there, what can that turn into in terms of social media? So that's where the mind map could be helpful in you laying out that visual articulation of what the overall kind of process or would look like. And then process mapping is a little bit different in terms of, it just takes you through the steps. So after you do a mind map, and we're just using social media as an example, if you're saying, okay, like in the center, like my thing that I'm going to do every week is write a blog, and then it'll get repurposed in all these different ways, then writing a blog is the process that you need to develop. And so what does that process look like? And that's where you can get into process mapping and write down, okay, this is what it's going to look like from the top and bottom. And I do find this helpful too. And why I say to process map and then also to document it, is because people learn in a different way. So when you're training your team, it's helpful for the larger processes. It doesn't have to be every process. For someone to look at the process, social media, for example, getting a mind map, doing process mapping, where it's you're seeing a visual of what that actually looks like a flow chart, is what that actually looks like. And then they're actually reading it in that SOP that I showed you a little bit earlier, that step-by-step process. And all of that can be linked to the same document, so they can fully understand how to complete this step. And
So
so,
we
yeah.
have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Hui says, our stack also helps to time track and see how much time you are spending on what. We still use this every day. Review, then reallocate resources and prioritize within the team. Yes, I've also used Clockify for this as well because they have a Chrome extension and you can just start the clock and name the task and then stop the clock. But because I really wanted to like do it with intention of seeing if it was outsourceable and all of that, that's why I created my own spreadsheet for a week. But yeah, that's cool. I haven't tried OurStack. Have you heard of that one, Alicia?
No, I haven't tried OurStack. I know I use Asana as a project management system, so I know they have some timekeeping in there, and then they also have it in ClickUp as well. So those are the two.
Yeah, and we use Clockify's plugin with Asana so that they can actually click inside of the task in Asana and start tracking that task in their Clockify. But yeah, it does have that time tracking built in if you use it. So Hui wants to know, what do you use for mind mapping? Tried so many, but still trying to find a good tool / system.
Awesome. I am Lucid Chart all the way. So Lucid Chart, that's LUCID and then chart. It has actually a mind mapping template that you can just start. And they have a lot of templates for just anything that you can think of. If you like mind mapping or if you like that visual articulation, Lucid Chart, I mean, it just has so much for you to choose from, or you can just create your own. And there's shortcuts and stuff like that. When you learn it, you can make things go a little bit faster. So Lucid Chart is my number one.
Awesome. I will show that on the screen. Lucid Chart.
Yep.
Awesome. And all right. So I think that answers your question. He says, yes, Lucid Chart is great. We use it for building funnels and flows and love it.
Awesome. And you can share the links too. So I know I just did a mind map for my own content creation and was able to share the link with my copywriter and with my virtual assistant, all within Slack. So it was pretty easy for them to get connected to it.
Amazing.
Awesome. So after you document it, and this is like where the policies, any assets or videos kind of come into play with your SOP, that's drafting up the formal SOP. You also want to test it, and I put #work it, and that'll make more sense in a little bit. But you do want to work it. You want to work this system because a lot of times, you're building this out and, you're the expert in building this process. And then when you go and you try to test it or have somebody else test it, you may find that, things might be a little bumpy, and that's okay and to be expected. You may have forgotten maybe something, or maybe not a big step, but may have forgotten something small, or maybe not explained it as well. And so it's always important to test your processes. And then always you can go back and then tweak it. So an example that I have for this is, let's say that you've developed a process and your process was like, yeah, people go to my website, they fill out a form and, we book a call from there. Let's just say that. And then something happens, you develop this process, everything's good to go. You launch this process, and then somebody picks up the phone and actually calls the business, right? And they want to know about this particular service. So that's something that maybe wasn't included in the process and something that you can go back and include. And also it's important to say here that processes are not like old school, like corporate, right? Where you get like a list of like an SOP or like this book, right? And it's like dusty, and you look through it and you're like, okay, I think that this is, some things don't make sense, but I guess I can get through it. And then you like close the book and put it back on the shelf. So that's not the intention here. So, processes, this should be like a change management initiative within your organization. So that way everyone buys into how to create a process. And even if they're asking questions, like a good, kind of question back. So if they're coming to you, Amy, and saying, hey, Amy, like, how do you do this? Or I ran into this issue, like you can answer the question, and then you can say, can you please put that back? Can you put that in the SOP? So your team gets acclimated to using the SOP, and they're also empowered to make those decisions within themselves. And they already know, okay, I found a better way to do this, or something changed in the process, and I have the autonomy to go back into the SOP and get it developed and add something to it. So I also wanted to mention that here, because it's not just a one and done thing.
Yeah, because otherwise, you're right, it will just sit on the shelf. If it's not a living document that people use on a day-to-day basis, and something that we've done is we just build ours into Asana as well, because it's like, okay, this task in Asana actually has the SOP tied right to it. And that way, as you're working the task, you're pulling up that SOP and you can change it, update it if you need to. But it's there and it's working.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so our particular process, so the process that I work with is called Flow, to get your business operations in flow. And we always start when we work with clients in the foundation level. So an entry level business operations audit, where I'll get access to all the tools that you have and I'll be able to get under the hood. And this is also a process that you can follow if you're doing it on your own when you're thinking through this. And so do your audit, look at the core business processes, look at, what does my sales processes look like? What do my marketing processes look like, et cetera, et cetera. And so that can be done in the form of an audit. And what we're really trying to find out is, where's the current business at? And then depending on your goals, where do you want to be? And let's find the gaps, and let's also build the processes that you need for the future, not just a band-aid and not just the process that you need right now, but depending on where you're going in the next year, maybe even 5 years, what are the processes that you're going to need, and the tools that you're going to need to support that business growth. So that's all
And
established in foundation.
And something that I did that made it really easy for me to do this is, after that time analysis that I did, I used that to write up a job description for myself. So basically, what are my core duties? What do I do on a regular basis? Like, what's my job description? And then when I looked at those, and so I had a lot of stuff on there, like managing social media, following up with clients, doing this, and this, all these lists of things that I was doing that I used from that time analysis. And all I did is I looked at that list and I highlighted the things that I wanted to be doing at the end, right? So when my business was where I needed it to be, when you're a business owner of one and you're managing a whole business, and you're doing all the things, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the operations, you're doing the sales, you're doing all of those things, the website management, everything. You have a whole big list of all those things, but what do you want to be doing in the future? What does your future look like? And for me, I only want to do 3 things on my list. And that means everything else needs to be in someone else's hands, someone else's responsibility. So I was able to use that list to develop an org chart, a future org chart. And then I was able to see, okay, what do I want to get off my plate first and second and third? And, I was able to do that just by looking at what you're doing right now. If you are the business owner, and breaking that down in that time analysis that we talked about, and then turning that time analysis into your job description, and then highlighting the things that you want to get to be able to do on a daily basis. What is it that you want to do, or a weekly basis? Highlight those 2 or 3 things and work on putting everything else into buckets. Like, oh, this is marketing, this is operations, this is sales, those core business processes that Alicia showed us earlier, right? Then it makes it very easy for you to go through this foundation process and kind of see where you're going, especially if you're doing it on your own without the help of an ops pro like Alicia.
For sure. Yeah, I love that you said that. That's exactly kind of the steps that we walk through. And that's where it comes into play with leverage. So we leverage like yourself and who you are and the type of work that you want to do. We also leverage your team, and do you have the right team, and are the right people in the right seats? And then we leverage your tools in that phase as well. And then optimize is where we get into the actual development of your SOPs. So whether it's myself or yourself, this is where you're documenting the standard operating procedures. You're looking at the tools, setting up the tools that need to support whatever process you're creating at the time. And then we mentioned this a little bit earlier, then you're working the system. So you're working it, you're testing it out, you're evaluating it, and you're tweaking it so to make it the best it could be at that time. So yeah, so that's our business operations, your business ops and flow in our process. And so I also have a freebie. So funny. I have an SOP on how to create SOPs. So what you saw on the screen, I actually developed a step-by-step. So for you to hand maybe to your ops person or your virtual assistant, or for you to use yourself on developing SOPs, especially if this is not your jam. It's a step-by-step process that you can have, and we can send that to you. And Amy, we can link that in the show notes. We can link it wherever, or if you guys are here live, you can text me and I can send it to your email. No spam, just the freebie.
I'll actually put that. I can put that in the chat. So what are we, you're giving away your SOP process, right?
Yes. So it's a template on how to create a standard operating procedure. Yes.
Free. Just text your email to. Oh man, I almost did a typo there because your phone number is a lot like mine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, but the second digit is the second 3 digits is different just slightly, just by one number. So I was like, oh, okay. Let me just double check before I.
You're putting your personal cell out there. Yeah, don't text Amy. She won't give you.
Good. All right. So I put it in the chat for you guys. If you would like to get that free template, it's in the chat, and you can text Alicia to get that awesome template.
Yes. Awesome. And if you need any other resources, like I'm pretty open. I have a lot, like the task thing that Amy was talking about. I have a version of that myself. It's not as robust. Amy, I might want to see that. But
hey, I did. That's what I did during my, in the military. That's what I did. I spent my time in operations, managing operations. So I'm really good at in training and all of that. So I'm used to creating processes and creating training manuals and stuff like that. So I definitely use that in my business, but it's also really hard sometimes for me to get out of operations because I am so operations minded. Mm-hmm. It's hard. Like I want to kind of do everything myself, and I don't want to give it to my team. So I'm definitely looking forward to having your help and in letting me go and helping me let go and let the team take over and let them start developing some processes. Because here's the thing. I think a lot of people are, number one, afraid to let go, right? Like me. And number two, I think they're overwhelmed. And they aren't sure how to hire their first person or how to, grow their team. And it's keeping them from growing. Can we just be real? I'm gonna come back to just us two, sure. Right?
Yeah.
But can we just be real for a second here? How hard is it for you guys out there that are listening? How hard is it sometimes for you to grow past your current level? Do you ever get stuck in your current level because you don't know how to rely on other people to help you grow? I know I've put myself in that position where I thwart my own growth because, number one, bigger numbers seem really scary. Whoa, that seems scary. But also it seems scary to let go of all of the management of all of those ops. I'm so used to doing that. That's my happy land. So it's very hard for me, and I inhibit my own growth. And so I think what I hope people got out of your presentation today is that they can just start small. Mm-hmm. Just with one thing. Create your first SOP and trust someone else to do it. If you do nothing more than that, if you get one task off your plate and you can trust someone else to do one thing, then maybe you can grow to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But yeah, I think that you've given folks a template here in which to follow. And I really hope that they take the time, because it can make a humongous difference. I
Yeah,
used to kind of be stuck every day, like, oh my gosh, if I get sick or if I get hit by a bus, this whole business is coming down, right?
yeah, and that's like real talk. Like
Yeah.
if you get sick and things, I mean, like sick on the fly, or you have an emergency that, you know, obviously your business is back to a family emergency or something like that. Like what can happen, right? Or what is going to happen. And at the end of the day, I think, you know, you're not a brain surgeon. It's okay. Things will be okay. But do you want the client experience? How do you want that client experience to be in that situation? And can you do things now to prevent, you know, this getting a little bit sticky if something like that were to happen? And then something else you pointed out too, like, yeah, at the end of the day, absolutely, I think the takeaway here is to start small and to get one thing off your plate. And one thing I want to highlight as well is that you said is like when you're doing like the task audit, is that a virtual assistant is always thought of as a good first hire. And I will also like scream at the top of the mountains that a lot of times it is, but you don't really know until you do the task audit, until you look at what's on your plate, until you define what it is that you really need help with, that you may see that most of your business right now needs more help in the marketing space because that's not your forte, you know, and those types of things. So, you know, even if it could be a marketing VA, at least you know now what you're looking for versus just hiring someone and saying, well, I may need help. Here's a couple SOPs and, you know, let's see what happens. And then you might spend more money than you really need to in that turnover or that person not being a really great fit. So even though it is a little bit painful to take a pause in your business, it's important to take that pause and to just, you know, kind of organize yourself and organize the tasks that you have. And so that was
Yeah.
an important point.
Every time I hire, I like brace myself because I know I'm like, okay, this is 3 steps back to take 2 steps forward. I get it, but I'm taking steps forward because I'm going to have to spend that time with that person. I'm going to have to pour into that person. Now I'm finally to the point where I have people to pour into that person. So I don't always have to spend so much time because my team now can do that, right? Where I didn't have that before. And, but it would always make me better whenever I could spend that time. Yes, you're going to have to kind of get some more hours in the day because you have to show someone else how to do these things. But I like what you said about let's make sure that we're doing our time analysis first so we actually identify where we need it. The other reason people don't hire is because they don't have enough hours for that person. So they go, okay, well, I don't even know if I can fill up 10 hours a week. Well, how do you know if you don't actually do a time analysis? What if that person could do more than just your email, right? Not that I'm advocating for having a jack of all trades assistant. That isn't necessarily it. But you might find that you have enough social media tasks or you have a social media growth goal that would actually work to hire someone and fill up those hours. You know, even 20 hours a week is enough to really, really see a humongous difference in your business. And it's inevitable. Like right now, we're onboarding 2 new people at Amazing at Home, and I feel like we're not doing anything, but we're growing so fast and things are getting done in the background that I don't even realize, which is beautiful as a business owner and really scary at the same time.
Like,
Yes,
where's everybody at? They're getting the work done.
Well, you guys take advantage of Alicia's freebie. Definitely check the chat. I threw her number in the chat for you to text, and she'll send you that freebie, the SOP creator. reach out, follow her on Instagram. She's got lots of great content, and you know, she's helping Amazing at Home right now. So don't keep her too busy, okay? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm excited to launch.
And for those of you who are coming to the meetup this Friday in San Antonio, you might meet Alicia because she's probably going to be there. So you'll get to meet my branding expert, Zara Cruzan. She's going to be there. And then Alicia will be there. And so you're going to meet a lot of really great people who can help you grow your business. This Friday in San Antonio, we're doing a meetup. So you guys, if you can make it to that, get there. We'd love to have you. All right. Well, I think that's about it. We got everything in today. Thanks everybody for watching. In 1 hour on the Seller Roundtable, we have Kim Meckwood, who was on Shark Tank. She created a really cool product, and she has just a really cool story. And she's told me some really cool things about Shark Tank too. So you guys definitely visit us in an hour, tune in to Seller Roundtable. You can go to Seller Roundtable/live to actually be in the Zoom with us, and you can ask questions and stuff. And that's in 1 hour. So we'll see you guys then. And thank you so much for watching today. Thank you, Alicia, for your time. This has been awesome. And we'll see you guys on our next Tip Tuesday.
Yay.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.